Can't tell from the distance. It's good for picking. Oh, first one I'll take up
Baba has. We'll begin our service the same way we always do, taking a moment of silent reflection, thinking about what the last week has been like, the highs, the lows, what you like to carry with you into the Sabbath, and what you'd like to leave behind. If there's been something in your life that you'd like to bring into this space, into this room, we'd like to hear it. Phyllis, go ahead. Start us off.
he was operated on Tuesday, and he was never in ICU. They put him right in a regular room.
I'm going to repeat that into the microphone so everyone can hear that Phyllis's daughter Jean had a brain surgery and went straight from, didn't even go to ICU, was able to go straight to regular room, and God willing will be in rehab very soon. That's wonderful. Go ahead, Sarah Jane.
I feel very, very blessed that each year came to our book club and enlightened all of us and made our hearts better.
So we're holding the shock and the pain of losing 80, and Sarah Jane said that she just feels very blessed that she was part of the book group and enlightened so many of us. Marion.
Our middle granddaughter that lives in New Jersey was just accepted by and accepted them to James Madison University.
Wonderful. So granddaughter's going to James Madison University. Wonderful. Mazel tov. What else? No? If you guys want to come, it's not really the front row because there's another row of chair seats, so it won't even count in that way. So I just want to welcome any guests, anyone who hasn't been here or hasn't been here in a long time and would like to introduce themselves. You can feel free to do that. Otherwise, we'll grab you over cookies. So if you feel like telling us who you are, we'd love to know who you are. Okay, you can be shy. Oh yes, tell us who you are.
I'm new and I'm excited to be here, and I worked around the corner and I drove and drove trying to find this number. So
Yeah.
My name's Trudy Weiss-Craig, and I am a cousin of Rana and Michael, who grew up
And we grew up
children.
Welcome to, yes, if you're Jewish, we know you, right? It's like Jewish geography, that's wonderful. Thank you, welcome to that you're here. Wonderful. Anyone else?
Well, we have our son Justin and his girlfriend Hallie joining us tonight. Very happy to have them.
Welcome, we're glad you're here. Okay, I want to welcome our online community that even though you're not within our physical walls, you're part of our communal prayer and minyan, and we're so glad you're with us. We know that there's lots of you who are joining us from hospital rooms and from your own homes, either due to illness or other kinds of reasons that you might be behind the camera instead of in our space, and we're so glad you're choosing to join us tonight. So you see it's a little different today. I want to thank Jeff Ryan, who we just surprised by giving this awesome job of climbing a high ladder. And Ryan came and set everything up too, and of course the staff to make it physically feel different, but also you'll notice that the service itself, that this is Rich Hrdinsky. Hi, Rich. And we'll introduce all these lovely people in a little bit, but we decided we wanted to take some of the energy of Just Love and to bring it into a Jewish Sabbath experience. And so that's what we're doing today, that it's going to feel different, and it's going to be awesome. And what you're going to hear is that what we did is we decided to focus on healing and oneness. And we took one line or one word from 4 essential prayers and distilled them to what we thought. And so what we want is, there's a meditative reason we're doing it this way, that you'll hear one word or one line over and over and over. And part of that, the first time, just listen to it. Just let it sort of come into you and see how it feels. And then as you're comfortable, you'll join in. We'll repeat it over and over so you'll get used to it. But part of that is that you might hear it differently this way. That instead of singing it the same old way, you might actually unlock something differently than you were able to before. So we want you to sing along, and we want you to hear it differently. And we'll do Ein Kelohenu next week. So Mark's here to vouch for me that I promise we'll do it. So to open our hearts into this different way, and we're so glad you're here. And if you feel like joining on the ground or whatever you want, that's part of it. So we're going to go back into Hine Ma Tov. You heard it the first time one way. Feel free to come front, make room, scoot over for each other. We're all friends. To be together as we go into Hine Ma Tov and try that same process of listening and then joining in.
Share
in our Torah portion this week, Kitisa, there's a moment where Moses finally connects with God in this way that physically affects him. So after his experience with God up on the mountain, he comes down and he is visibly changed by that encounter. He is brilliant in that his face is shining so much with the light of God that he has to put a veil over his face and lift it to prove he was talking to God, and puts it back down because the people just can't handle it. So we have different reasons of what it means that he can't handle, that people can't see this brilliance on Moses' face. Perhaps it's because the people couldn't handle that light. It was so extreme. And then what it meant, that you could visibly see what it means to be touched by God, and that people just couldn't handle that and what it inferred. Or maybe it was because Moses didn't want to share the light because he knew that he couldn't explain it. We may never know the difference between talking with God and encountering God at such a level that our physicality changes. That's not necessarily what every one of us is going to experience. But hopefully we will have encounters, or we've already had encounters, where we are so filled with the radiance of the moment. Do you know those moments when it feels like the universe kind of shakes a little bit and connects? So full of self-knowledge or peace with the surrounding world that we feel ourselves literally growing into that space. Moments experienced in such a profound way that no one else but you could really understand what that was like. And like Moses, we might be tempted to veil ourselves off, to distance ourselves from others, or even from the experience, to protect our radiant connection with the mystery of the world. Or maybe, like Moses, you might just know that maybe no one else can understand what you've seen or what you've encountered, but you know it's there. You know how the light makes all of you shine. And for what it's worth, maybe that's enough. Maybe it's that walk on the beach where you feel like you don't know where the sand stops and you begin. Seeing a baby being born. Walking into a room where someone has just passed. A comment from a friend that just says it all. At the right time, in the right place, in the right way. These moments are divine encounters, times where you are part of everything else, and yet separate because part of you is transforming, placed on another plane, glowing ridiculously, painfully, deliciously brighter than anything else around you. And we also encounter God in our questioning of God, in our desire to have faith, or wanting to believe, even when it makes no sense to believe in this moment. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel said that faith is the response to the mystery in this world. In a world where everyone and everything seems to have an answer, we encounter God when we make room for wonder and awe, and for mystery to remain mystery. We're going to welcome the Sabbath now with the lighting of the candles. And as Mercy comes up, I want you to look around at some light in the room. It could be in the traditional candles that she's about to light with the traditional prayer. It can be in the lights above, in the one that doesn't look like the other. Maybe that one's you, or maybe that one's you. Or maybe it's the little lights that you have in your hand that you want to light. Whatever works for you to concentrate and hold that connection to you, that you know that you are both separate and part of all things in this world, and that you're brilliant and beautiful and full of light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You hallow us with mitzvot and command us to kindle the lighting of Shabbat.
occasion is the Shema. And you know it, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, I am the Lord your God, I am one. The Lord is one. And we're just going to focus on one word, which is Shema, which means listen, hear. And so you already know the word, so you're good. And this is now, we've been warmed up, so I hope you'll join into it as we go in. As you think about it, hear and listening as two different things. So maybe the first time you're listening, you're hearing just what the word is, what the melody sounds like. Can I get into this? Is it centering for me? Is this working for me? And then the second time, maybe it's what we're listening to this week. What did we hear this week that we connected to or that we needed to lean into? And maybe the third time you listen to it, to think about how that went to the rest of the world, what you need to be connected to in the world and how you're responding to it, or what's requiring your witness in this moment. So we're going to listen, and then we're going to receive back. And you already got the word, so I think we can do it together. talk about creation in all kinds of ways depending on our faith. And often when we talk about the creation story, it involves sin, that everything was perfect in this Eden, and then a great thing happened, and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, and everything else fell apart. They're cast out, and they go into the hardships of the reality of the world. It's so bad, in fact, that one of her sons kills the other. So here's my midrash, my story on that, which is that in our traditional form of Judaism, and the traditional part of Judaism, we teach that if you lose a child, your grief is so great and so painful that you should be allowed automatic entry into heaven. Because whatever you've done, you didn't deserve that. And so my idea is that God then went back to Eve and said, you've experienced this horrible thing. Would you like back into heaven? Would you like back into Eden? And she turned and she looked at her remaining son, who was broken or diseased, tortured in his soul, unaccepted. And she said, no, thank you. I'll take my broken son in this broken world and I'll stay in it. I'd rather be with him than be in paradise. And I bring that up because it reminds me a lot about another part of this week's Torah portion. When Moses is begging and begging and begging to see God's face, and God says, you can't see my face, but you can see my back. And in this book that Rich got me to read, called The Children of God by Maria Doria Russell, she has her own midrash in there, which of course she doesn't call it because it's a sci-fi novel about Jesuits in space. And read it, it's amazing. In Jews, it's very Jewish. She says the reason we only see God's back is because maybe we only know where God's been. That there are hard enough things in our lives where it feels empty and broken, and we can't actually know that there was any connection there, any God there, any divine anything until it's already passed. And in those moments we say, well, what is there? And all we have is each other. And sometimes that's just where God's showing up. When we were talking about the healing prayer, Rich kept composing these beautiful, positive things, and I was like, we like it dark in the Jewish tradition. Go darker and darker, and he's going darker and darker. And we decided on the line of El Narafanala. I wanted this anger as part of it, the anger that sickness even exists, the anger that grief exists, the anger at the brokenness in the world. And we're getting closer to it. The El Narafanala is not what we usually sing, but it's appropriate for this moment. It's the very first prayer for another human being, and it's when Miriam, Moses' sister, is struck with leprosy. And Moses' first response is to say, El Narafanala, God, please heal her. And it's with urgency and frustration, mad that God even brought this on in the first place, and now we gotta fix it, and this woman didn't deserve it. All of that is in it. Saying, let's bring mercy to the situation. That as we pray for healing in this moment, all of those emotions belong to it too. All the brokenness and all the joy and all the possibility and the community and the loneliness, all that goes together. So in that spirit of El Narafanala, the urgency and the comfort, we carry with us in our hearts all those who are in need of healing in body, mind, and spirit. Those in hospital beds, in nursing facilities, and in homes. Those awaiting the next stages of their diagnosis, of new treatments, and just one more thing piling up on everything else you gotta deal with. Those who suffer emotionally and with deep grief and the shock of loss. Those who struggle with addiction and the difficult decisions that lie ahead. In that same exact breath, We're thankful for those who bring healing into this world, doctors and nurses and therapists and social workers, caregivers, family and friends. If you'd like to share someone's name or your own name who's in need of healing, please share those names now.
Julie Rich.
Peter Steele. Lisa Gray.
To those names we add Roberta Applebaum and Barry Ostern, Judy Avner, Mary Barner, Marcy Bine, Sheila Boniface, Chava Leah, Tricia Farver, Esther Sima, Jerry Goodwin, Dr. Meryl Goldman, Ethan Kadish, Gita Knudsen, Skylar Kuntz, Gail Kraus, Jan Kravitz, Lee Krennick, Elaine Heitfeld, Mel Hudson, Tony Janitas, Ira Lerner and Doris Lerner, Lou Levy, Elaine Frankowski and Jean Fine, Joan Lieb, Marcy Maxwell, Rhoda Meyer, Eileen Ness, Nancy Newmark, Phil Ryan, David Rose, Betty Roth, Bob Rubin, Aaron Reuter, Karen Schwartz, Ira Shum, Archbishop Chuck Smith, Lisa Steele, Mejia Stoneman, Lou Strauss, Susie Warschauer, Ann White, Haroldine Ukelson, Fran Victor, Chaim Ben Yaakov and Nechama. We include everyone we mentioned out loud, those in our hearts, and all of us in this room as we're all on a journey towards healing and wholeness in some way. With that, we continue with Elna Refana La.
Refana
we take a few moments for private prayer, the words of our hearts. Thank all the people that made tonight possible. I want to thank our staff, Jenny and Batia and Julie and Laura, for being flexible and making a busy week more possible because of your work here. I want to thank Marcy for lighting the candles, and Larry for being the usher, Micah for doing our sound, and Nathan for holding everything. And of course, to the musicians here and their voices, this takes a lot of time to create and to practice and to bring it with full heart that you did tonight. So Aprina and Elsa and Baba and Terrell and Zach. And then Rich, to delve into, to even start learning some Hebrew so that you could make all of this to connect us and to get us closer and open our hearts. And of course to all of you, because this was different for you. And thank you for being open-hearted and to sing along, and we'll see where it all goes. If you like this and you want to do more of it in a more multi-faith environment, the next time we're doing a Just Love event is March 3rd at the Women's Shelter, and it's almost filled up, I think. Jenny's like, stop adding more seats, Miriam. There's also CDs, like everywhere you'll see these Just Love CDs. It's not these Jewish songs, because we just wrote these, but if you like the music, take the CDs. They're for everybody. And we're going to go into our morning prayer now. So anyone who is in mourning and will need to do Kaddish, I'm going to pass these out. I didn't make this many copies, so if you need it, you take it. If you don't need it, we don't need to be paper-oriented. So Dr. Glick here has his 3 daughters and his granddaughter, and he has sponsored our own egg. That's why I had such yummy food today. It's because they did it, and they also do these window treatments, which we've covered up with our hippie blankets today. But it's all in memory of this amazing woman, Lenore, who made this baby blanket for me when my oldest, who already ditched the service, I was just pregnant with her. And while I was pregnant with her, she was battling for her life, and then Sienna was born, and soon after that, she died. And for a long time, I didn't want to wash this because I knew that all those trips down to all the treatments that Sai was taking her, that's where she made it. And then eventually it was gross, and so I had to. But it's still perfect because she was this amazing artist. And I think about this, that you never know the impact that one person can have in your life. That so many of our relationships are casual in this world, or it's my job. It was my job to know her. But it wasn't my job to love her. And that she just offered this love in all kinds of ways. And the same energy, Edie is part of our community every single Friday night for probably since our existence, and would bring her dedicated daughters too, to think about these women in these other women's life, filling our space, and their not being physically present here is felt, extraordinarily felt, even in the shock of this loss. And now it's been 5 years, and yet they're still here, filling the space with us and song and love, that didn't fade. So what we did with this, I want to teach you this before we go into the prayer for morning. I'm going to read Psalm 23 first, and then I'll explain why we came up with it, and then we'll do the Kaddish names, and then we'll rise, and then we're going to sing it. Psalm 23, Mizmor LeDavid. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo achzar, binot deshet yarbit zaini. Al mei menuchot yanhaleni, nafshi yoshvev yancheni, vegmar letzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech begtzei zalmavet lo yira, ki ata imadi. Shivtecha umishantecha hema yanachamuni, ta'aruch lefanai shulchan neged ta'arai, tishanta vashemen roshi kosi ravayai. Ach tov v'chesed yirafuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti b'vei Adonai la'orach yamim. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. If you have it, you can say it with me. He makes me to lie down in green pastures, leads me beside the still waters, restores my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The prayer that we'll sing after the Kaddish is from this. You see the bold in the Hebrew is Ki ata imadi. Just try that. Ki ata imadi. That was perfect, first-timers. And that just means because you're with me. That even when God feels distant, or other humans feel distant, or you yourself feel unknowable, that there's a presence that our faith says exists, that we're connected into, and that we aren't alone, that we're part of something bigger. And it is through our connections that we bring God into the world. We mourn the recent passing of Larry Schwartz, father of Scott Schwartz, and the passing of Edie Shear, mother of Cindy and Rana. And we commemorate the anniversaries of the passing of Alan Siegel, Dorothy Rabin, Hyman Victor, Sanford Cogan, Lee Gordon, Mark Lister, Arthur Apple, Samuel Lizak, Sylvia Strauss, Yetta Langfelder, Adeline Ekman, Louisa Levy, Annette Frisch, Robert Setzer, Harry Fiermark, Bernard Ness, Pincus Kirchik, Sally Glansman, Bertha Newberg, Charles Newberg, Samuel Borofsky, and Lenore Glick. If you'd like to add to the list of people we're remembering, please share those names now. If you are in mourning or commemorative yard site, please rise first. For your father and your mother, for the people you loved and carry with you, we see you, and though we're not standing next to you in this moment, we've experienced pain like yours and are with you. And in that spirit, we rise as a community for all those we mentioned out loud, those we hold in our hearts, and for all those who have no one to say Kaddish for them, as we continue with our prayer of affirmation, Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'kadash shemei rabba, v'alma divrach kirete v'yamlich machute, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye jachol be'Yisrael, v'gala v'zman kari v'imru. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'olam umay umaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei gedusha, le'ela min kol berachata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran v'alma v'imru. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. Please be seated as we continue with Ki ata imadi from Psalm 23, because you are with me.
Ata
cups full of juice. And we want to break bread and to sanctify the moment as holy with these two blessings. So we're going to pass them out. It's like the quietest they've ever been.
I love this.
Yeah. So we're just going to do the one-liner, okay? You're welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Hey, Rookie. Solomon, come to Nancy. You're the only two kids left. Now, is Alex here? Is Alex still in the room? We've lost all the kids. All right. They're too embarrassed to do it. She won't come? No. Come. She just wants the bread. All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. And then we'll just pass all that. We're going to sing one more time, and then we'll do a closing benediction like always. Shul and Fuel, where are you going tonight?
El Pueblo on Hunt Road.
Ooh, mixing it up. So for those who don't know, shul is another word for synagogue, temple. So you shul, and then we go to fuel. Everyone's invited. It's super casual, and they're going to El Pueblo, just up the street.
On Hunt Road.
On Hunt Road.
Plainfield.
Okay, that's Gail. So if you need her, that's her. Blessing. If you're not a toucher, just say, thanks, but I'm not a toucher. If you're online, put your hands out, whatever you need to feel connected and receiving a blessing in this moment. Yerechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Adonai panav elecha v'chanecha. May Adonai's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. When God's light shines upon you, may you find the inner spark within you connecting to the people around you. May you never feel alone. And may you feel strong and brave. And this world be better because you're in it. And together we say, Amen. Shabbat shalom and thank you.